Hello and welcome. I'm Asima Katauka and you're watching World Report on News 6 World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. The Russian Defense Ministry has stated that its air defenses have downed 37 Ukrainian drones overnight. The ministry has also stated that 37 Ukrainian fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles were intercepted in Russian regions. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for urgent anti-corruption measures following raids in the energy sector. Zelensky has vowed to punish corruption as the $100 million energy scandal unfolds, while the energy minister promised full transparency in the investigation. U.S. President Donald Trump has met with Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa at the White House. The two leaders have discussed cooperation against the Islamic State as Syria joined a global alliance. Trump has also praised Sharaa as a tough partner and said he looks forward to meet him again. Turkish Foreign Minister met with U.S. officials including Vice President J.D. Vance and U.S. Special Envoy Tom Barak to discuss Syria and Gaza. He has stressed the need for a united Syria, warning that unresolved issues in the south and north could further divide the country. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi held a phone call with Canadian counterpart, emphasizing resolving concerns through diplomatic and commercial channels. He expressed Beijing's willingness to boost cooperation, resume exchanges, and strengthen communications with Canada. The U.S. Senate has passed a bill to end the government shutdown and sent it to the White House for approval. U.S. President Donald Trump has called the deal very good and highlighted upcoming reforms, including a new air traffic control system. Eight people were killed after a car exploded near Delhi's historic Red Fort at 1852 local time, prompting a high-level investigation led by police and security agencies. Home Minister Amit Shah said authorities are exploring all possibilities, while Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed condolences and ordered a full review of the incident. Taiwan has now evacuated more than 3,000 people ahead of Typhoon Fangbong's arrival, which is expected to strike near Kaohsiung tomorrow after killing 6 people in the Philippines. President Lai Ching-te has urged residents to avoid mountains and coastal areas as authorities warn of heavy rain and flooding in Hualien and Taitung. Now we start with Russia and Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry has said that its air defenses have downed 37 Ukrainian drones overnight. The ministry has stated that 37 Ukrainian fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles were intercepted in Russian regions. The ministry has also added that out of those, 10 were intercepted over the Republic of Crimea, 8 over the Saratov region, and 7 over the Oryol region, 3 each over the Lipetsk, Rostov and Black Sea regions, and 1 each over the Bryansk, Voronezh and Kaluga regions. Meanwhile, according to reports, Russian forces have captured an oil depot in the eastern part of Ukraine's Kupiansk. Now for this discussion, we welcome Professor Vasilin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean at Jindal Global Law School, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us again on this topic. Good to see you. Professor, now looking at this again, how is Russia's reported downing of Ukrainian drones affecting European security perceptions and NATO's strategic posture in response to this conflict?
Well, 37 drones are down, but we don't know how many are not down, and it's not a big number. So it's basically a very regular news. There will be more. Every day there will be more drones over Russia. And not only in those regions that you mentioned, Crimea, Rostov, Kaluga, Oryol, but also all over. Moscow can expect drones, Petersburg can expect drones, all Russians can expect drones until they agree on a ceasefire. That's the message here. There is no other message. NATO is united, the European Union is united, the world is united against those aggressors in Kremlin that have to tell the generals to stop the fire and to go home. Before they do that, there will be drones every day on every Russian city, on every Russian airport, and they need to know that. This is very clear here. Now, not much change on the battlefield. You mentioned Kupiansk. That's kind of a city on the front line, which over the last 2.5 years, there are fights all over Kupiansk, all over Pokrovsk, all over Dnipro, and all over Chasiv Yar. By the way, Chasiv Yar was reported to be captured back by the Ukrainians. You know, Ukrainians don't report every day what they did. They only report big news when something significant happened. Russians want to report every day because their president, Putin, is absolutely desperate for any good news. So downing 37 drones for Putin is a kind of a news they want to report today, but that means nothing, zero, in terms of any achievement on the battlefield. And as the battlefield is so frozen and there is no movement much either, well, there are small movement one way or another, it also suggests that there is a time to stop all of this. But to stop all of this, we need the will of Vladimir Putin. It's one man that needs to stop all this nightmare, and his name is Vladimir Putin. Everybody else in the world should sanction Russia, should support Ukraine, should stop talking to Putin, apart from telling him to withdraw and to stop the war. That's the only message Putin understands. Yes.
And Professor, I also wanted to take know your perspective on the corruption scandal that's unfolding in Ukraine of the $100 million energy scandal. How could these allegations of large-scale corruption in Ukraine in this time when Ukraine needs a lot of alliances to help with their military, how do you think it will affect energy sector of Ukraine and affect foreign aid inflows to Ukraine? And what potential impact might this investigation have on Ukraine's efforts to stabilize its energy market amid ongoing war?
Yes, thank you for this question. It's a good one because it suggests that Ukraine is a democratic country. It is a country ruled by the law. And only those countries investigate anti-corruption that are democratic, where there is a public opinion and where transparency, accountability do matter. And just as a counterfact here is we don't hear that in Russia and North Korea, Iran and everywhere else, where brutal dictatorial regime never investigate any corruption. So that's the answer here. Ukraine is a democratic country. It will investigate the evidence, the intelligence, the leakage, and that information will go to the proper authorities in terms of investigating, find out what happened, and eventually sanctioning if there is a proof that those corruption acts were happening. So that's my answer here. Well, in a sense, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union over a long period of time, and somehow that also is part of the answer here. There is a lot still to do in Ukraine, in other former parts of the Soviet Union, in terms of anti-corruption, in terms of changing towards a system that is accountable, transparent, and so on. And Ukraine is gradually moving there. It will be very soon a member of the European Union, with all the possible safeguards against any wrongdoing, against any bribing, against any corruption. So Ukraine is going into the right way. These are kind of still some illnesses from the past, and they will be recovered with the proper law enforcement measures that Ukraine is taking. So again, I would say it's a good news. It's a good news showing that Ukraine is a democratic country it applies the rule of law, it will investigate, it will find out what happened, and things will move on.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Professor Popovsky for always joining us and sharing that insight on this topic. Thank you very much. Now we move on to India. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stated that those responsible for the last night's Red Fort bomb blast that has killed at least 8 people and injured more than 20 people will not be spared and would face justice soon. Meanwhile, the Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has stated that India's top investigation agencies are conducting a swift and thorough inquiry into the incident and are carrying out raids in different parts of the country. He has also stated that the findings of the initial investigation will be made public very soon. The Delhi police has invoked Unlawful Activities Prevention Act sections after forensic evidence and intelligence inputs pointed to possible terror links. Let's listen into what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said.
बहुत भारी मन से आया हूं। कल शाम दिल्ली में हुई भयावह घटना ने सभी के मन को व्यथित कर दिया है। मैं पीड़ित परिवारों का दुख समझता हूं। आज पूरा देश उनके साथ खड़ा है। मैं कल रात भर इस घटना की जांच में जुटी सभी एजेंसियों के साथ, सभी महत्वपूर्ण लोगों के साथ संपर्क में था, विचार विमर्श चलता था, जानकारियों के तार जोड़े जा रहे थे। हमारी एजेंसियां इस षड्यंत्र की तह तक जाएगी। इसके पीछे के षड्यंत्रकारियों को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। All those responsible will be brought to justice.
Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General G.G. Dwivedi. He's an international relations and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General G.G. Dwivedi, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this tragedy that has unfolded very close to us indeed, here in New Delhi, how might this tragedy influence India's current internal security strategy and interagency coordination, especially regarding intelligence sharing between central and state authorities, given the alleged links, as we know, all the way to Jammu and Kashmir of this tragedy?
Well, Soma, first and foremost, it's a horrific instance, and almost dozen innocent lives have been lost, and several of the countrymen have been injured. So our heartfelt condolences to all the families of the bereaved and those who have sustained injuries. With that very heartful note, I'd like to bring home a couple of points.
Yes.
Firstly, how the instance has folded out. In fact, yesterday also I was covering on the national channel that it was a vehicle, Hyundai i20, which was parked somewhere closer to the Red Fort, and it then moved out around 6:20 or in the evening. And this blast occurred very close to the Red Fort, gate number 1 near the metro station. And it was conjectured that it could be either a CNG cylinder blast or it could be a terrorist act. And now as the dots are being joined, the needle is pointing that it could be more or less a terrorist act. And the main conspirator, that is Umar Nabi, that he has been also identified. Well, the point is that we need to look at all the angles, and currently, as you rightly brought out, and even the Prime Minister in his statement, that every agency is working in coordination to get to the depth of this horrific instance. The second point is that India is vulnerable because there have been and continuing proxy war from across the border, And it is apparent that those who are involved in the instance, and there are enough links and leads that in Faridabad, large quantity of explosive was recovered, and there are links established with the what we call in the white collar modules, means they are all educated people. In this case, they are doctors who are apparently allegedly involved. Now they act as a sleeper cell. So this is a new development. The third point is that it takes time for the agencies to pinpoint, because you cannot make any statement in haste, and therefore all the agencies are involved, because it is taking place in Delhi. Well, Delhi police is involved, the national NIA is involved, even the J&K police is also part of the investigation. So the point I'm trying to make is that concerted effort is on to get to the depth of the instance and figure out who are the perpetrators and who rightly will be brought to justice, because this sort of instances in the capital are not acceptable, and also they'll go into what exactly was the issue and was there any intelligence failure on this score. Asuma.
And given, as you've mentioned, this is very different from orthodox acts that tragic terrorist attacks that have been carried out, which you rightfully mentioned that this is a white collar group of people who were involved. What do you think? What does this reflect in the change of people who are involved in this, and what could be the motive? We can only speculate here, but and also what ways could this attack impact the political discourse around counterterrorism laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and particularly concerning civil liberties and state power in India now?
Well, as you rightly said, that this new development of traditional terrorists who are involved, now the white collar terrorists are also coming up in a reasonably big way, because these are the people who are well educated, who are part of the civic society and holding professional degrees and appointments, but they apparently are radicalized, and they come under the influence of certain terrorist outfits, and then they get involved in such like activities. And therefore, there is need now to keep a close watch of those people who may be holding high position or in a high profession like medicine, doctors, or even in the academia. Now we need to keep a very close tag of such people, because now the dimension of the terrorism has actually gone beyond the very traditional boundaries. Second is that for the national security, you have to bring in certain model laws. Like I have operated in all the areas where counter-insurgency terrorist acts are there. You have certain provisions, because you require legal provision for the security forces to act with impunity, because otherwise there are a lot of legal issues, and the anti-terrorist law is one of them, because that gives certain amount of powers to the security agencies to perform their duties without any anxiety or fear. Well, human rights, India actually is a democratic country which has a free press, free systems, and therefore these laws should not be seen as an impingement to human rights. They are only for good for the citizens, so that the law enforcing agencies can act with impunity, and also their hands are strengthened when the legal issues come up. So all I can say is that these laws, when invoked, they are invoked with a lot of deliberation, but they are for the larger good of the society, and also for the effective functioning of the security agencies. Assumed.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Major General G.G. Dwivedi for always joining us and educating us on these topics. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. In a post on Truth Social, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned of significant economic and national security consequences if the U.S. Supreme Court rules against his use of emergency powers to implement wide-ranging tariffs on imports. The Supreme Court case is a test of the legality of Trump's unilateral tariff measures, which were enacted during his presidency Trump's administration has justified the tariffs under emergency powers, citing economic and national security considerations. Trump has said that his tariff program had generated funds, part of which his administration proposed using for direct payments of $2,000 to low and middle income Americans, while allocating the remainder to reduce the national debt. He has also credited the tariffs for declines in inflation, particularly in food and energy prices. Now we move on to China. China's foreign minister held a phone call with Canada's foreign minister on November 11th, signaling a push to strengthening bilateral ties. During the phone call, Wang Yi has emphasized that diplomatic, commercial, and other relevant departments of both countries can properly resolve ongoing concerns. The Chinese foreign minister has also expressed Beijing's willingness to accelerate the resumption of exchanges and cooperation across multiple sectors, highlighting a commitment to open dialogue and constructive engagement. He underscored that China is ready to strengthen communication with Canada to ensure smooth coordination on shared priorities. This development marks a positive step in Canada-China relations, aiming to stabilize and enhance cooperation amid recent tensions. Officials from both sides are expected to continue discussions in the coming weeks, focusing on trade, diplomacy, and broader international collaboration. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Sanjay Kumar. He's a journalist of the Korea Herald, joins us live from Seoul. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, Dr. Sanjay, looking at this, well, it's very obvious the difference of administration of Justin Trudeau and this current Mark Carney's administration on their relationship with many countries, including with China. Now, looking at this, what are the potential economic and trade implications for this China-Canada cooperation for these both countries?
Well, Asuma, this should be seen as a pragmatic setup. I mean, the pragmatic shift that we are seeing it right now, especially after listening from Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, because just recently during the APEC summit in Gwangju, presidents of China and Canada, they agreed on certain points, and it looks like those agreements on points are taking shape, and it looks like the official channel is coming into action right now, and it is signaling a shift. We should see it as a diplomatic reset. That would be most appropriate right now, because in last 6 or 7 years, if we see, the relationship was not in good shape over issues of tariffs, over issues of enforcement of some kind of approaches which were very much Western centric. I mean, Canada was also supporting the Western countries in Europe and other and US in dealing with China by reinforcing against the tariff, as well as entry of some companies such as Huawei and those things. So over last 6-7 years, it was not in good shape. But after Gwangju, we are seeing it as a major shift, and it would not be surprising to see a very pragmatic way of economic cooperation in coming years. And from diplomatic standpoint, also both the countries, they want to signal some positivity, because they are marking 55 years of diplomatic relations, and also their strategic partnership is also marking 20th anniversary. I mean, almost 2 decades. So among all these background, with these backgrounds, both the countries, they are now trying to shift, and they want to adopt some kind of pragmatism. And here, additionally, I would like to also note that it is not just a short-term goal-oriented thing, but in long run, it looks like both the countries, they need each other. So they are looking towards some kind of symbiosis here.
Right. What do you think, what is driving them closer, particularly now?
Right now, it looks like after being driven by these uncertainties, in the recent times, Canada has not been approaching very proactively. If you exempt the last two months, it was having a hard time while dealing with the US as well as some other partners in Europe and countries like India, you can say, in South Asia. So, they needed a diplomatic strategy, and some experts from Canadian perspectives, they have also pointed out by referring to, there is a diplomatic, not policy, but there is a diplomatic strategy which says that, China has to be dealt with firmness when it comes to fundamentals, but flexibility when it comes to tactics. So I think the Canadian side is realizing this, and they are trying to follow these kind of strategies.
Right, and also it seems like China is pushing forward with this new investment incentives that align with current President Xi's broader political agenda of, common prosperity in the region. And do you think that foreign countries, especially Canadian businesses in this case, would be comfortable enough to get in or go into Chinese market after years of regulatory tightening?
Yes, because of the supply chain disruptions that were caused due to tariff, and there were retaliation from both the sides. When Canadian side retaliated against China on the tech side, the Chinese also, they retaliated with the import, banning the import of some products and additional tariffs. So because of that thing, already the investment ecosystem was not proactively moving ahead. So after this kind of euphoria from both the sides, it is going to develop good vibes of investment, new investments, and China is looking to diversify the investment basket, and Canada, I think it's a good destination for Chinese, and this kind of diplomatic engagement is also going to revive the presence of Chinese people in Canada, which had been minimized in last few years because of some detention cases and hostility towards the Chinese. So obviously this diplomatic engagement is also going to mitigate the anti-China sentiment in Canada. And on the other side, in China also, it is going to give a good signal, as Wang Yi, who also plays a key role in the Politburo of the China Communist Party Central Committee. So that is why this statement of Wang Yi is having a great significance, and that is why it is being applauded also from the Canadian side.
With that, I would like to thank Dr. Sanjay Kumar for joining us as a journalist all the way from Seoul and sharing that insight on this topic. Thank you very much. Now we move on to EU. The European Commission has begun setting up a new intelligence body under President Ursula von der Leyen in an attempt to improve the use of information gathered by the national spy agencies. The unit, to be formed inside the Commission Secretariat General, plans to hire officials from across the EU's intelligence community and collate intelligence for joint purposes. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and U.S. President Donald Trump's warnings on American security have prompted EU to boost defense and start biggest rearmament since Cold War. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.